I believe technology is going to enable the best agents to do more business, and there will be ultimately fewer agents, but more transactions, and more importantly, a better consumer and client experience. There are 1.5 million real estate agents in this country in an industry where 70% of that 1.5 did not do a transaction.
That's what gives the real estate industry such a bad name. As I always say, the worst agents are highly overpaid and the best agents are highly undervalued. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glennda Baker. I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia, and welcome to Glenda's Guru. I've got to tell you, I don't know that there could be a better week to have my friend Rory Glennda in the room with me. I will tell you, it was a hot topic last week with Compass and portals and Clear Cooperation and Zillow. I mean, we've got so much to talk about, Rory. I don't know where to start.
I'm surprised you're at a loss for words.
You know what? You're not the first person to say that. I mean, I got to tell you. So you are the Chief Growth Officer for Compass.
Yes, I'm the president of growth at Compass International Holdings.
Well, and you want to talk about growth. Oh, my stars and stripes. I mean, you guys have been growing by leaps and bounds over the recent past, but really that's been kind of an initiative of Compass from the start, correct?
It has been. I joined Compass in December of 2014 when we were Urban Compass. So we hadn't even become Compass yet. We had about 20 employees and about 20 agents. So we had a really small company with one office in New York City. And as I often say, and no idea what we were doing. And, since then to go from sort of there to where we are today as Compass International Holdings with, the company we have today in over 120 countries, over 340,000 agents, the incredible 9 brands that we have. It is a bit of an almost movie script style story of, sort of going from this really small, scrappy startup to this company today. And obviously all of the twists and turns to get there. It was not all an up and to the right, easy linear path, as you know. It never is in our business. But it's been an incredible ride. And I often say that was sort of maybe the first decade, first 11 years was sort of chapter 1. I think in this next chapter, it's going to be even better. That's not just a talking point. I really believe that because I think we had to kind of get to this point to be able to now do the things that real estate professionals and agents want for their industry. Last week is probably a great example of that, right? Like last week is probably not possible 5, 7, 10 years ago because we are not able to yield enough of a voice to encourage people to get behind something that we know is good for the industry. So it's been an incredible ride.
Well, you've got me going in 48 different directions. I want to take complete and total credit for 3 things. When Robert was here in Atlanta and he was going to open the Compass here in Atlanta, I had the opportunity to sit down with him. And I said to him, I got to ask you a question. It feels like to me that, you could want to come in and kind of like take over a company so you have like immediate growth. I'm really surprised that you haven't talked to Ansley or Beecham or Sotheby's. And now I can take complete and total credit that those all fall under Compass International Holdings, all of them.
You should take credit for it. I'm not surprised you also mentioned 3 of the best companies, not just in Atlanta, in the country, with amazing brands and a lot of history. It's interesting. I think a lot of people in our early days, the story of Compass was one of growth, expansion, recruiting, launching. We were at one point, I think we were launching a new market every 2 weeks. The whole focus of it was never about just growth for growth's sake. Where it really started actually was our agents in our earliest markets saying, we don't have a presence in blank market. So one, it's hurting me from a referral perspective because I have clients who are moving back and forth to these markets. I don't have someone in the brand. 2, we don't have the brand capability of a national brand. And so we were actually getting encouragement from them to be in these markets. And it was sort of interesting, right? We're in New York City, then people were saying, well, we need a presence in the Hamptons. And then it was, well, what about DC? And then, oh, well, what about Los Angeles? And then, well, if you're in Los Angeles, what about Texas? And that's kind of how it organically came to be. And we were hearing what you shared with those three companies. I mean, there were a number of agents early on in Atlanta who said the same thing. So a lot of it really just came from the recommendations and the referrals of our own agents.
Well, and I will tell you, you touch on something that I want to kind of lean into early, and that is you have created a super network of companies. You now basically have 350,000 agents and 30% of the agent population. Is that better for the agent or not? Because is it better that now, I mean, I just sent a referral to El Dorado Hills to Sotheby's. So is that great that I have an immediate referral partner? Or does it give the brokerage this stronghold to then drive down commission splits of agents? Does it help agents or does it hurt agents? And I'd love to hear from you. I don't know if you've ever had that question before, but it's a question that people have asked me. Do you have a concern about Compass buying all of these companies and now you're affiliated with them and now they can basically pay you what they want?
Yeah, it's interesting because the reality is actually very different from that. As you know, agents are independent contractors. They run their own business. They're not employees. And they are, at least at Compass International Holdings, there are 9 brands that all of our agents are spread across. And so just because Compass International Holdings now owns these brands doesn't mean that we have the ability to dictate what every agent is going to do and how they're going to run their business. As an independent contractor, it inherently also means you have flexibility. You can move and change. Agents could decide tomorrow they want to go to a different company. And in many ways, I think it's actually a really good thing because it's forced us to build a company that has had to work backwards from how do we ensure agents want to stay at the company, and they're going to stay at a company if they're getting value from that company, if they're able to grow their business, if their clients are having a great experience, if they're able to save time, if they like the culture, if they feel good about those things, they're going to want to stay. And so we have never once even thought about some of the things you mentioned. It's always about how do we help agents grow their businesses, do more transactions, serve more clients. And by virtue of being at one brand, you have that independence relative to the other brands. There's not a uniformity to it. It's actually a great example what you shared of being a Coldwell Banker referring a client to Sotheby's, right? You could be at Sotheby's, that's very different than being at Compass. Being at Compass, very different than being at Better Homes and Gardens, and vice versa. So that independence is really important to us. That's why we came out very early before our merger with Anywhere was even completed and said we are committed to preserving these brands and keeping these brands independent. And I think at the core of it, there's 2 things I keep coming back to. One, many of the brands now in Compass International Holdings were Anywhere brands that had been under one company, but were independent, unique brands. And they were really successful and they had done that for a long time. So it's not as though this model is brand new. So that's number one. Number two, each of those brands is very unique and different. And even within those brands, every agent is unique and different. There has never been a day in the 11 years I've been in this business where a client has called the company, the brokerage, and said, hi, send me any agent to sell my home as long as they're part of this brand, right? It's always, who's the best agent? I want to meet them. I want to interview them. I want to meet a number of them. And so that shows you that it is all about the agent at an individual level. And I think that dynamic is going to continue to drive competition among agents, competition among brokerages. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want, because competition will create the best outcomes. And so, and that's, very much why we also believe in competition for how to sell a home, how to market a home, which is a lot of what we've been talking about, obviously, in the last number of months.
Well, I've got to tell you, and I'm going to tell you the story. You and I haven't talked about this. I was at an event maybe a year ago, and an agent with my company who had come from Compass. She said, one thing that I really miss about Compass is the coming soon and the technology. It was just leaps and bounds ahead of anything that we have here. And, and this is a big, big agent. And I'm like, really? I'm like, is it really that much difference? And she's like, Glenda, you have no idea. It is so different. And so now you've gotten all of these brands under one umbrella and you have this amazing technology stack. How do you deploy that technology stack, that coming soon, that pre-market strategy to 9 different brands across the country? Because, we're not all, I wore my black and white for Compass today, but we're not all
I,
slick
I
like
wore I wore my blue, my off blue to just, as a slight homage to you. By the way, we did not coordinate that, which I love.
we
Very
did
cool.
not, but I'd love to know, how do you deploy this technology stack? How do you deploy this coming soon strategy across 9 very different brands, very different agent culture, very different agent population? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, so that monumental task is actually my main focus for 2026 and 2027. So in my role, the majority of my time is going to go towards that. And I think about it in sort of a couple phases. One, if we just step back, my role leading growth is not just the company. The growth is really, how do we help agents grow their business? When agents at Compass International Holdings see me, I want them to think of myself and my team as the team that's going to help them grow their business. We actually named our team the Agent Business Growth Team because that's why we exist, right? The reason that the person you were talking to was really excited and emphatic about the technology is because at its core level, that technology is helping them to grow their business, save time, and create better experiences for their clients, right? If it's doing those 3 things, then it deserves to exist, basically. And if it doesn't do those things, it doesn't deserve to really exist in our ecosystem. And so the first thing is, how do we help agents grow their business? Technology happens to be one of, if not the most effective ways to grow your business because it's infinitely scalable. It moves at the speed of light. It allows you to maximize your impact, right? One of the reasons why everyone is so excited about AI is just it's allowing you to maximize your impact so much more than you could as one individual. It's something you can use with your clients. There's so many components to it. And so we've kind of broken it down into phases. 2026 is going to be phase 1, which is rolling it out to all of our owned and operated brands. So think about Coldwell Banker, Corcoran, and Sotheby's. So we are going to be incredibly focused this year on doing that. That's going to start in the summer. So in July, we're going to start rolling out the technology platform to all the owned and operated agents at Coldwell Banker, Corcoran, and Sotheby's. And it's going to have some different components. There's going to be sort of a pre-onboarding where we're going to gather information about every agent on an individual level so we can really tailor the experience to everyone in a highly personalized way. There's going to be the actual act of onboarding where we're going to go through a very comprehensive list of all the things that we set up for you and try to actually take as much of it off the plate of an agent that we can. Because look, this every day, you're busy. You don't want to sit there and have to download apps and enter information and fill out forms. So we're going to try to do most of that for you. And then after doing that, then actually the fun part starts, which is really learning how to not just use the technology, but use it to do 2 things. One, to actually make more money to create better experiences for clients, right? Like it's not so much, oh, I have a great CRM. It's, I have a system now that makes sure a client never falls through the cracks, right? I have a system now that ensures that I keep in touch with every one of my former clients so I can increase my repeat referral business by 20%. That's what's exciting, not a CRM. And then the second part is going to be coaching and train on how to sell it. The thing about our platform that I think is the most compelling is actually when you go into the living room in a listing presentation, you pull out an iPad and you're sitting with a seller and you say to them, my job is to help sell your home as fast as possible for the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle. I want to show you 3 things that I can do to help accomplish that. You pull out your iPad and you go through 3 pieces of technology that we have. And you could pick 3, you could pick 10. I'd probably keep it to 3. And then you see the look on their face of actually seeing it, the physical manifestation of it. And I've done this because I've been in, thousands of living rooms with our agents doing this. When you see that and you see how excited clients get, and then you actually use those tools with them, that's really the light bulb moment. But you got to know how to sell it. You got to know how to walk through that. And so that's all going to happen throughout the summer. And then by the time the fall market hits, I want all of our agents to feel really good about, great, we can go off into the wild and really use this platform to grow our business. And then in 2027, we're going to take that same approach and then extend it to all of our affiliates and franchises. So it's going to be a monumental task, as I said, but I am so excited about it. We have an incredible team, and we're basing all of it on feedback from our agents. We're not, sitting in a room and whiteboarding this out on our own. We're going out in the field and asking everyone, how do you want to be onboarded? How do you want to be trained? How do you want to be shown? Do you want to do it in person? Do you want to do it virtually? Do you want to have someone sit with you? Do you want all those things? We're just taking the feedback and working backwards from what agents want.
Well, I'm going to give you a little tip. Not that you asked me, but obviously I'm really good at this. And I'm going to tell you, I want them not only to learn how to utilize the technology, but how to optimize the technology. And the best agents are very competitive. So I would challenge you to create super groups that you have to understand how to utilize and optimize a piece of technology before you can move up into the next super group, because that way you will get us to actually use it, optimize it, and implement it into our business. And that really is the key. How many agents do you know that they know how to get into the CRM, they know how to enter stuff into the CRM, or they know how to enter stuff into the computer, but they don't know how to optimize it for the consumer?
That's
so
right.
I would just challenge you not only to teach us how to utilize it, but to teach us how to optimize it for our business, and give us a reward that the better you get at it, the higher you move up into the super groups.
Well, it's interesting. First off, I love that idea. I'm actually, you can't see my hand, so I'm just writing down on a post-it super group, because I'm going to give that to the team. But it's very much so in line with how we've been thinking about it. One of the things we're going to do in the fall is we're going to launch what's called an impact challenge. Now, we've done these at Compass for years, where very similar to what you're saying, you go out to your agents, you create sort of a list of tasks or a challenge, right? Accomplish these things, do these things. And if you do, and it's all based around the platform, using it with your clients, growing your business. And if you do, you sort of get 2 benefits. There's double the impact. One benefit is it actually creates a great forcing mechanism to force yourself to learn how to use it. And if you use it, you're going to grow your business and save time and create great experiences for your clients. That alone is the benefit. But also there's another benefit, which is we can create really exciting competitions, both between agents, between offices. And I want to go big. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some wild prizes for this. I mean, it should be the kind of thing where people are like, oh my God, it was enough of an incentive to learn how to use these tools to grow my business. I want the number one people at those super groups to feel like, wait, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to get, an all expenses trip paid to New York City to go to Robert Refkin's house, have dinner with him, and $50,000. I wanted to feel like, it's like, when Publishers Clearinghouse used to come to your house and give you the big cardboard check.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel like that, where people are like, wow, this is incredible. And make it fun, because look, at its core, learning how to use technology is not fun for everyone. But learning how to grow your business and save time, that is fun. So how do we sort of balance that? I love your idea of the super groups and the accountability it can create.
Well, and the whole Compass thing, you can always, and if you take Compass and Coldwell Banker, you could always say moving towards the North Star. And the higher you get up in those super groups, the closer to the North Star that you get. And I guess Robert could be the North Star, for God's sake. So, I mean, I just, as I said, I want to see the best agents affiliated with the company that I'm affiliated with. While I know that quantity is part of the game of brokerage, what is really what I think. And I think that we're in an age where it is going to be survival of the fittest. I think that the best agents will excel at a pace and at a level that has never ever been seen before. And I think that the gap between the best and the not the best is going to widen to such a degree that those people that suck will automatically get thrown out, or at
I,
least I hope so.
yeah, look, it doesn't make sense why there are 1.5 million real estate agents in this country in an industry where 70% of that 1.5 did not do a transaction last year.
Yeah.
Right? One of the reasons why that even exists is actually just because NAR and MLSs have lived in a world of basically making money by headcount. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Brokerage is actually, to run a brokerage well, you actually don't want to think about just in terms of pure headcount. You want the most productive, the agents who are the best culture fits, the agents who are great representations of your brand. Whether that is 5 or 5,000, all you care about is who are the best fits. And I think you're absolutely right. There's going to continue. This shift has already started, and it ebbs and flows. Right, in 2021, you had a lot of people trying to become real estate agents because they're seeing what's going on in the market. 2022 and 3, those numbers went down. So it flows with the market. But ultimately, I agree with you. Over the coming years, we want Compass International Holdings to be a company that represents brands that have the best agents. And I believe you're right. I believe technology is going to enable the best agents to do more business. And there will be ultimately fewer agents, but more transactions. And more importantly, a better consumer and client experience. Because a consumer and client benefits from working with an experienced agent who has great technology, great marketing, great support at their disposal. A consumer, you could argue, is not really benefited as well by working with someone who's never done a transaction.
No, they're not. And that's what gives the real estate industry such a bad name. As I always say, the worst agents are highly overpaid and the best agents are highly undervalued. So I agree with you 100%. But I got to tell you, now look, we got to scoot over here into, because Zillow and I are not friends. I mean, I never miss an opportunity to throw shade. And I kind of have a hybrid opinion about this clear cooperation and private listings and all of that. And I'll be very honest with you. My loyalty lies to my seller. My
It
seller
should.
makes the payments. It's my seller's house. They've done the improvements. They've done the upgrades. If they want it on the market, they want it on MLS, then we put it on MLS. If they don't, then I don't think anybody has the right to mandate how a seller markets their home. Period. Bottom line, that is my belief. And I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where the MLS takes a pound of flesh out of
Mhm.
every single sale.
Mhm.
So my head spins around and snot flies out of my nose, head to toe, top to bottom, front to back on every damn deal. But I will tell you, you dropped the lawsuit against Zillow last week.
Mhm.
And I want you to talk to us a little bit about that because you guys, I mean, I got to tell you, I felt like you had them by the short hair. I felt like if we went another round with them, you were going to get them. So tell me, tell me why did you do that?
Yeah. Well, look, I think first you articulated it incredibly clearly and very well, which is your fiduciary duty is to your seller. Right?
Yeah.
Let's go at the most basic level. The listing agreement is signed with the seller and the agent and their brokerage. That's who's party to that agreement.
Yeah.
And the fiduciary duty, and fiduciary is just a fancy word for the legal obligation is to that seller, right? And so why would there be anything that supersedes that legal obligation that isn't a government regulation? The only entity in this country that can tell us what to do and supersede anything in the private sort of business world is the government. The MLS is not the government. They're not. Zillow is
They
not the
don't
government.
know that
No, well,
because they've
they
been
almost
acting like they are.
well, they have been acting like they are. They almost feel that way because they're monopolies. Monopolies feel like the government because they feel so overwhelmingly powerful. luckily in this country, there are laws that protect consumers and businesses from monopolies, but they're not the government, right? They are private companies. MLSs are private businesses. They make money. So think about it, if you step back, replace the MLS with any other entity and replace Zillow with any other entity. And you could use these analogies, right? Imagine if this were transportation and Zillow was Uber. Would Uber ban you from booking a ride with Lyft one day because you chose to just use Lyft? No, that'd be ridiculous. Would Amazon ban you if you chose to sell on another website? No, that's ridiculous. It's shocking to me that we're even having to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Is it?
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, conceptually, I mean, I just think, and I think about it, if I'm the seller, it's my house.
Hmm.
If I want to sell it on my Facebook group, if however I want to do it, why should anybody have the ability to mandate how I sell you didn't make the payments, you didn't live in it, you didn't
Hmm.
improve it. And I will tell you, I have never understood it. But the video that I did this morning talks a little bit to agents and says, hey, if you want to get tied up in the noise, you want to be distracted from your business, you go right ahead, because all of this fragmentation, all of this noise is not doing anything but putting more money in my pocket, because I know everybody who wants to buy and sell in my area. I know every agent that has a buyer that is looking to buy or sell in my
Hmm.
area. I mean, we call it the Marietta Mafia. We call it the East Cobb Mafia because all of us sell all of the houses anyway. We don't need to put it anywhere anyway. And so that's the thing, is like, and now you're going to find me, or you're going to ban me. I mean, I'm sure Zillow would love to ban me for any reason, but I digress. But I appreciate that you fought for that. But Zillow now has a pre-market thing. I mean,
Well,
again,
the
it's so
irony of
confusing.
the irony of this whole thing is that the idea for coming soons and pre-marketing came from Zillow, right? In 2014, Zillow announced coming soons, right? And then you had Clear Cooperation get put into place in 2020. And as we all know, Zillow was ardently opposed to this. We are hearing all these things about it's all about transparency. It's all about what's best for the consumer. But then last week they say, well, no, actually, we think coming soons are great. They're great for the consumer. What that tells us, it was never about transparency. It was never about the consumer. It was just about what it's always been about, what everything always ends up being about, which is making money. And, I heard someone say now it sounds like they almost figure out a way where they could make money with this. So they're doing it, which that's fine. They're a business. They have every right to pursue things that make money, but not at the expense of their customer, which is actually the agent. Those that are working with them are their customer, and not in a way where they can use monopolistic power to override the fiduciary responsibility the clients have. Now, it was great to see that they reversed course and said, we believe in incoming soon listings now. So we felt comfortable dropping our lawsuit because, again, this was never a personal thing about Zillow. This is purely just about us fighting for seller choice and not having agents being fined or banned. Robert has said multiple times, the day that agents are no longer being fined and banned by Zillow and MLSs, then we have nothing left to advocate for. We have nothing left to fight for. We'll move on to something else. And so last week was a step towards that. That's why ultimately we dropped the lawsuit, because now agents who are doing coming soons are not going to be banned. Now, there's still an issue with 44% of the MLSs in this country do not allow you to pre-market a home for more than 24 hours. And we are aggressively pushing back on that because, again, no entity should be telling the seller what they can and can't do. Now, ultimately, when you really sort of break this down, what this really comes down to is competition and seller choice. Compass International Holdings, we are not, despite a lot of the rhetoric I've heard over the last year and a half, this has nothing to do with double ending deals. It's actually such a silly retort of what we're doing. I almost laugh when I hear it now because this has never been about double ending deals. If the buyer, every buyer that's working with an agent now has a buyer broker agreement. If there is an agent who has the listing and an agent who has the buyer, and they both happen to be at the same company, that company is going to get their share of that buyer commission anyway, regardless of what home that person buys, right? So really, the only double ending deals opportunity is really for the listing agent to sell to their own clients, which long before we ever started this thing, that was always possible. That could happen, but we know that that's not actually what this is about. It's not, it has nothing to do with fair housing, it has nothing to do with creating a walled garden. As you can see, we are trying to share as many listings as we can with the public as coming soons. We tried to put them on our website. Clear Cooperation shut that down. Now, luckily, they're on our website, all of our brands' websites eventually, and then also Redfin now. It's always been about competition and seller choice. Competition is what creates the best outcomes for clients, creates the best outcomes for agents. All we want to see is competition, free market competition, where the seller decides. If the seller wants to, as you said, put their home on the MLS, great. If they want to have it on a different website, that's great too. The reality is 94% of the listings that go through the three-phase marketing strategy end up on the MLS, end up on the sort of full market. So what this is really about is just having the flexibility to pre-market to help price better. Steve Scholl, one of the best real estate coaches in the country, always says that private exclusives, three-phase marketing is the best pricing tool that exists, right? And, in a world of, we know Zillow's not known for pricing tools, right? So it's a great pricing tool. It gives you the ability to build interest, build anticipation, determine flexibility. There's so many positives to it. And ultimately, the seller decides. We have an agent in Boston, Eric Johnson from Mission Realty Advisors. So he is in Boston and Jackson Hole. And Eric's a really smart and talented agent. And he was quoted in an article in Inman last week. And I'll paraphrase what he said, but he said that he's really loving the new coming soon partnership with Redfin. He had a listing that went on there as a coming soon. Some number of people saw it, and he ended up getting it into contract. There's an agent representing the buyer from a different company and him representing the listing. And it never ended up actually going fully on the market and going to the MLS. And what he said, which is, I thought it's exactly as you put it, we keep losing sight of this. It's not that selling it in that phase was better or worse than putting it on market. It's that the seller chose to do what they wanted. It's the seller's choice, the seller's freedom to say, the same person who says, you know what? Wow, we have people who want to buy this home. It's not yet on the market. Great, we can. Or you could say, you know what? Great, then let's put it on the market because we probably know we're priced well. And but it should be the seller's choice. And I think
Absolutely.
that is ultimately what matters most here.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Now, you touched on something with Rocket and Redfin. And so I want you to unpack the thought process behind that because for me, as an agent,
Mhm.
and maybe even for me as the consumer, but maybe it's not fair for me to think about it from a consumer perspective since I have so much industry knowledge. But to me, the partnership with Rocket and Redfin kind of felt weird. Like it felt like why are you getting into bed with them? Because like Rocket owns a brokerage. Like that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Why would you do that? So unpack that for me.
Yeah, so there's a couple, sort of elements to this. I think first, the leadership of Rocket, Varun and his team, they really believe in the value of great agents, right? They clearly believe in the value of great agents. They believe in the idea that agents should be on their listings. There are a lot of things that they very much believe in that are very much aligned with how we think, right? And I think what you're going to keep seeing, particularly from Redfin over the coming, weeks, months, and years, is more and more alignment with that sort of thought of how the industry should look and sort of an alignment with great agents. So we looked at this and said, yes, we had been sort of at odds with them before. But again, our whole push here is not us versus other companies. I think actually by partnering with Redfin, it shows everyone something that we're willing to put aside any difference, any misalignment, if there's alignment on this idea that agents are at the center of this industry. We should be building things that support and help agents, and the ability for an agent and their client to choose how, where, and when they market their property is fundamental. Then we can get along with anyone. And in fact, we could do a lot together if we can collaborate and come up with great things that enhance competition, enhance the overall value to consumers. And so just believing in those fundamental truths allowed us to then sort of start to put together this idea of this partnership. And really it has a couple key components. The most obvious is that coming soon listings, and this will soon be available to our owned and operated brands, and then eventually to all of our affiliate brands, can automatically syndicate to redfin.com. They will then get promoted to the top of redfin.com in that geographical area. And the listing agent's name and brokerage brand is going to show up back on those listings. Now, the fact that that's something that you and I should be applauding and celebrating, it's actually kind of crazy and sad that that's worthy of that. But again, imagine if I was on here with you a year ago and I was saying, hey, we're going to fight to get the listing agent's name and brokerage brand back on their listing. I think you would have said, Rory, that sounds like a great talking point. But call me when it becomes a reality. Probably never expecting it to happen, but it actually happened, and it's a huge step forward for our industry. It also means that those listings, if a client or someone who's interested inquires on Redfin to reach out about that listing, that lead will go directly to the listing agent, right? So there aren't 3 buttons on the listing trying to redirect that buyer inquiry off to someone else so it could be sold off to someone else, which is what Zillow does. It's going directly to the listing agent. I have had countless agents at Compass reach out to me over the last number of days with examples of, I had a coming soon listing on Redfin. I had 4 people reach out to me. I had 6 people reach out to me. That's what this business is. And that's what's happening now. That is an incredibly profound shift. And it's why the partnership that we have with Redfin, I think, is far superior for agents than any of these other partnerships you've heard about that have come out in the last number of days, because it sort of aligns to those fundamental truths. And then there's obviously other benefits there as well. On those listings, there are no days on market. There are no price or status changes. There's no valuation estimates. All, as Comedy Lane, my colleague, well, I love it. She calls it digital baggage. We were all calling it negative insights, but digital baggage, I think, sounds better. It doesn't have all this digital baggage that's a disincentive to the seller, that is not helpful at all to any seller, that no seller ever asked for. And so that's sort of the crux of the partnership. And then also over the course of the next number of months and years, Rocket is going to be sending well over 1 million leads to all of our agents as well. So there's a lot to like about this. And, all it is, it's a partnership. It's an opportunity and a choice. In the same way we talk about seller choice, agents have the choice if they want to take advantage of this. And if they don't, that's fine too.
Well, I hope that agents just heard what you said, because I don't want anybody to skip over that. You are in partnership with Rocket, and they're going to be sending you leads. And I'm telling you right now, sit down, buckle up, Buttercup, because if you think that Rocket is not getting seller leads and buyer leads, you've lost your mind. Because I will tell you right now, I have a mortgage with Rocket, and there isn't any communication that they send, whether it is by mail, by email, or when I log into my account, that doesn't say, have you thought about buying or selling or refinancing? Every single communication comes with that. And if you want to talk about somebody who is doing direct to the consumer, first to the consumer race, well, nobody is doing it better than Rocket Mortgage. I don't think.
Over the last number of weeks, and we've gotten to know them well, and I've gotten to spend time with their leaders and executives, and they are an incredibly smart, sophisticated company. They're an incredibly well-run company. And they also, again, as I said earlier, understand the value and the importance of agents, of professional, fully committed agents. And as you said, mortgage leads are incredibly valuable in their own right because they indicate high intent. It's one thing to be searching online, as we know, everyone searches, right? Zillow touts that they have 250 unique visitors a month to their website. That's a big number. It sounds great. There were only 4 million homes sold in the United States last year. So the actual sheer number of traffic is not actually that impactful, right? You know this better than anyone. With content, social media, it's about engagement. You could
Right.
have a million likes. In fact, you can buy a million likes. The real question is how many shares, comments, and engagement. What do you get there? And so mortgage leads are really valuable because there's high engagement. People are filling out information. They're looking for pre-approvals. They're clearly in the process and looking to move through the process. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be really valuable.
Very high intent. And I had the opportunity to spend some time with Rocket Mortgage and their leadership. They invited me as a guest to their Rocket Classic in Detroit. And
Mhm.
and you want to talk about a team that is well run and very engaged with intention. I think you would be hard pressed to find another company that is doing it at the level that they're doing it. I have all good things to say about Rocket Mortgage. I'm a little bit beefed with their appraiser right now because the appraisal came in low on one of my listings. But the loan officer has been super responsive, and that's the thing is like we are in an age where everything is moving so quickly, where the expectation of immediate response, the expectation of being available is critical to your success. And I have to tell you, I am excited about the technology stack. I'm excited about the leadership. I'm excited about the direction that you are taking Compass International Holdings. And to be a part of that, I feel honored and grateful. But I've got to ask you a question. In a perfect world,
Mhm.
in 1 year, and in 3 years, where do you anticipate the company and the industry to be, and why do you think it's going to go that direction?
So, look, I think over the course of it, I don't know exact timing on this, right? It could be a year, 2 years, 3 years, but let's say over the next couple of years. I think you're gonna have a couple of things. I think let's start with the industry. My hope and my expectation is that MLSs, you said it's important to move, evolve. MLSs have to. They are fighting tooth and nail. Not all. There are some that really get this, and I appreciate and sort of applaud their efforts there. But a lot of them are fighting tooth and nail to maintain this business model that's exploited agents, stolen their listings and content to monetize it and create this monopoly, and they are fighting to keep that monopoly, and it's not in the best interest of the seller. It's not definitely not in the best interest of agents, not in the best interest of buyers. It's actually not in the best interest of anyone in the ecosystem. And so my hope and expectation is that they will realize that they can't stand in the way of the fiduciary responsibility of the to the agent and their seller. They actually are creating risk for themselves by doing that, and that their job is to be the sort of clearinghouse of data and supply clean, accurate data and help uphold those data standards. That's actually what everyone wants from them. That's what we want from them. I would love to see strong MLSs in this industry. We are not anti MLS. We're anti agents being fined and banned and being forced to do things by entities that are not the government, right? And again, that means that their model will need to evolve and change. And that's a good thing, right? And as far as the industry, I think you're going to see, we've already seen this in the last week, right? More and more portals start to realize that pre-marketing is a sound strategy for an agent's business, should they choose to do it, should their client choose to do it. And so I think more and more of them will get behind that. And as they get behind that, what that will do is open up more opportunities for agents, more points of differentiation, more competition. Competition is a good thing. I've heard people say, oh my goodness, what happens if we have to go to multiple websites to see inventory? Isn't that competition? And then at some point, won't the website that creates the best experience rise above the others? I mean, like, we just want to see competition. And so I think you'll see portals move to that. And ultimately, what that will mean is that agents will be able to create better experiences for their clients, have more options at their disposal. Remember, no seller is saying, I want fewer choices. No seller is saying, I want fewer options. There's obviously so many narratives out there in the world about AI and how scary it's going to be and it's going to replace agents and all this stuff. I don't believe any of that. It doesn't actually factually, it doesn't align or make any sense. But what I think you will see is that the agents and the companies that create more choices, more options, more competition will naturally attract more clients to want to work with them. And those agents empowered by I think will grow their businesses significantly. And I think they will actually massively improve the experience for what it means to buy and sell a home. And that's ultimately where I see this industry going. Now, for our company, if we fast forward a couple of years, I see a world where all of our agents are operating on one platform, one login to run their business, not 15 logins, not 15 apps, being able to wake up in the morning, log into one system to run your entire business. And that system be something that feels like a supercharged, sort of powerful tool that enables you to create great experiences with your clients. It doesn't replace you, right? Leonard Steinberg says it best. It should be high tech and high touch. And in that world, I see Compass International Holdings agents doing more business, saving more time, having more options, more choices for their clients. And I think the industry will start to tact more to where it should be, which is focused on agents as the center of the transaction and how they create great experiences for their clients. And as I say it to you, it sounds almost very simple. Some people might say it sounds like that sounds almost boring or basic, but that is the business. That's what the business should be. And it should not be driven by companies and entities that are fearful of competition and fearful of change. And so therefore want to keep the status quo in place that actually holds back agents, creates an industry that we all know could be improved. I think that's going to change finally. And I think people will, after decades, be able to look at this and say, wow, this is how it should have been all this time.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I can't wait to look back at I mean, every year when I look back, I am amazed at how far the real estate industry has come since I have been an agent. And I think, though, that agents that refuse to change, companies that refuse to change, will literally become extinct overnight. And I think that you're going to see that more and more and more. So I am excited for the ride that we have in front of us. Rory, I've got to tell you, it is not often that I have the opportunity to sit down with somebody who really has a front row seat to the industry, to the change, to the things that are really happening on the front lines. And I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your insight and giving us that front row seat along with you.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I think I have to give you a shout out because I know I don't know how many people realize that on top of doing this, you also run a really successful real estate business and have a team and do a lot of business. And so the fact that, and I know you do this because you're not doing this for money. In fact, you could probably make the argument you'd make more money if you did less of this. I know you do this because you actually care. And I
Yeah.
know you do it because you care about your fellow agents, you care about the industry. And so thank you for actually building this platform that you have and being willing to do this. You have a lot of fans out there in sort of, and not just in our company, industry wide. And it's really refreshing to be able to talk to someone who's also on the ground doing it. I think one of the things that has really been sort of eye opening is so many of the voices in this larger debate are people who I would love to ask them the question: when was the last time you were in the living room with a client? When was the
Yeah.
last time even you were in an office sitting with agents and asking them, how's your business going? What's going on in the market? Like this business is about the people who are in the living room doing the work. And you're doing that, and somehow you find time to do all this other stuff too. So you gotta give me some time management tips as well.
I got to tell you, you know what? That is what makes me different than every other influencer. Is that I was on a listing appointment at 1 o'clock today. I
Awesome.
was showing houses yesterday. I was at a conference last week. I was with Keller Williams, EXP, and Compass the week before that. And to me, I am brokerage agnostic. I am a cheerleader and a champion for the everyday real estate agent, the everyday Bobby and Susie buying houses. My stepson is a police officer with the New York City Police Department and was the one who actually tackled the guy with the bomb a couple of weeks ago. And those are the people that just
Wait,
light my fire.
that was your stepson?
That's my stepson, Grant Pulgarin, and he was the one who tackled him. The video is on my social media, but I will tell you, that is what makes me passionate about what I do. I want my kids, I want my grandkids, I want the teacher, the police officer, the fire person. I want those people to be able to buy a house and live out the American dream and build generational wealth through real estate. And I will scream from the rooftops as long as I can to help those people. So
I I
that's
so
my
love. I
passion.
mean, one thing just as a segue is as a New York City resident, as the father of two daughters, I want to send a huge shout out and thank you to your stepson. There's not a day that goes by when I don't walk down the streets of Manhattan and I see a New York City police officer, and if I can get the chance, and I just say thank you, because it's things like that that allow us to even do the things that we do. We sometimes think the things that we do are so important. They're not that important relative to some of the things that people wake up every day in this country and do. And so that's an amazing thing. And I agree with you. I think this is about how do you sort of create a world where more and more people have access to that dream. The irony is that so many people have said all of this is about actually sequestering information and holding back listings. It's not. In fact, Redfin and Rocket came out recently and said that they believe that allowing for this coming soon partnership to have listings that can test the market without the threat of days on market, price status history, negative valuations, digital baggage, all that stuff, they actually believe more inventory will come to the market, right? It makes sense. A lot of
Absolutely.
sellers, a lot of sellers would potentially say, you know what, I'll give that a shot. Sure, we could dip our toe in the water and feel it out. If we get more inventory, that will mean more selection, more choice, more transactions, and that ultimately will be better for consumers and people in this country who are working really hard to buy a home. And so that there is a larger sort of thing that's at play here that's not just about transactions, that's about people. And ultimately, that's something that I'm so happy you shared that, because you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Roy. There's not that digital baggage.
Yeah,
There is nothing that's a bigger killer for my seller than the death by safety pin of days on market on Zillow. I will
that's
tell
right.
you that right now. Don't
That's
even get me started on that one. Rory, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, today I had the opportunity to sit down with Rory, and he really, really, really gave us a front row seat. And if you would like more information on anything that we talked about, you know that we're going to put a link in the bio so that you can connect with us. My name is Glennda Baker. I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. Send me a text, tag me in a post, give me a call. That's what I love the most, because I love the opportunity to talk real estate with you today. See ya.